So good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to call the meeting to order, that being the special council meeting of Warwick Township Council, April 24th, 2023. So I'm calling the meeting to order. I'll remind council of any disclosure of pecuniary interest or conflict of interest. Please declare it at the proper time. We welcome everybody that's tuning in through YouTube today. And now I'm going to do my acknowledgement of the ancestral lands. We acknowledge that the land on which we are gathered here today, Township of Warwick, is located on the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, as well as the many Indigenous nations in Ontario whose footsteps have marked them for centuries. We also wish to acknowledge that we are also situated on Treaty 29 and Treaty 25 territories signed by Chippewa chiefs and offer our respect and gratitude for these lands. Next item on our agenda for today is the staff items. Do we have any staff items today, Madam Clerk? I didn't see any. Delegation at times and events. We don't have any of those. We do have staff reports. The first staff report we have today is 7A, and that's site plan, deposit policy, and exemption requests for Watford Home Hardware, 7885 Industrial Drive, pardon me. So everybody's had a chance to read the report. And right off the bat, the one thing I noticed that originally Watford Home Hardware was told that they were looking at $350,000. I guess there was a mistake made. It should have only been $175,000. Am I correct?
Yeah, that's.
So Ken, do you want to come up front here? So we're going to ask our head planner from the County of Lambton, Ken, to pop up here. So again, the first thing that I noticed when I was reading through the report that the 350 was not 350. It was $175,000. And I'm just wondering, maybe the first question I'll ask before we get into this, how long ago did we catch that particular item and let Mr. Karras know?
So through your worship, pardon me, good afternoon, Ken Molenz for the county. Actually was only as a result of this report that I came to realize that the amount that we were putting forward was incorrect. So it was as a result of writing the report, and Ms. Gubbles had requested the report Thursday of last week, if memory serves me correctly. So that's how recent we became aware of that. Notwithstanding the error, Mr. Karras's email was very clear on what he was prepared to support. Really what I wanted to draw attention to, council, in the report is the importance of the site plan deposits in general. This is a risk mitigation tool that municipalities have to ensure that, one, the works associated with a site plan approval are done in accordance with the site plan, but not only that, they meet your standards. Or if in the event of, say, a financial problem with the business, there's a way to force the works to be completed so that there's not an issue for the township down the road. So it is a risk mitigation tool. You did amend the policy that you had back in 2021 to reach the level that you're at now, which is 50%. And keep in mind that as times have changed and the level of development you've been having has been growing proportionately. Of course, projects are getting more complicated and more complex. So part of the reason you changed the deposit was because the feeling was that wasn't mitigating your risk. That there was concern that the deposit amount that you were asking for back at the time was not enough to have the township feel that you weren't putting unnecessary risk to ratepayers. As development increases and as developments change, of course, you're going to have small and big developments, and each is going to be unique. But keep in mind that what the development industry really wants to see is consistency. They want assurance of, this is the way the policy works. This is how the process works. That's what makes them feel comfortable in the process. And so while council can intervene or make exceptions, what you really want to do is be consistent in how you apply policy. And one of the other things to keep in mind as well is that part of this, all of this process of site plan has been delegated out of council's control. That's now with staff. So one of the things that I pointed out in the report that probably was not contemplated at the time of the change is giving some discretion to staff to look at unique circumstances, such as if a project is phased. I don't think that was really in the cards when you made your changes previously. And with the process being delegated, that can be helpful to give staff some latitude to take those situations into account.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ken. So the change happened in 2021 in reading the report. It went from being $10,000 to being 50% of the project. And again, it's unfortunate, and I know it was a mistake on Ken's part that he didn't see until he went through the report that it had to be that $350,000 was the first number offered up when it should have been $175,000. Both large numbers, in my opinion. But just asking council, anybody have any comments on this particular policy and maybe where you'd like to see us go? Councilor Morris.
Personally, I don't remember changing this in 2021. I'm a little concerned that this is all in staff's hands and maybe we should bring it back to council and not in staff's hands. I think 175,000 is a tremendous amount of capital to be tied up for a project. I think we've got to bring it into a little more realistic terms, something that's livable. Like somebody might kill a project because they can't get the extra $175,000 in credit. The bank's got that money secured. Like it's not like they can use it. So I'd like to see some changes made, please.
Thank you, Councilor Morris. Anybody else on council have any? Deputy Mayor Kellenberg.
Yeah, I agree with Wayne. I think, that 50% is way too high. I think we can come up with a number that's going to follow inflation. If it's a 10% or 15% or whatever the percentage is, it's still following inflation, cost of building stuff. And that's all we really need to do. And versus that, I would like to see that versus just a set fee. Oh.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Kellenberg. Councilor Westgate.
It does seem like a lot of money. I kind of remember when we did this, and we'd had a few projects where we had problems with getting the site plan. I think the truck driving school out there was one where we had a real problem quite a few years ago. I'm glad to see it wasn't 100% because I was told we were charging 100%, and I didn't know how that got by me. Other places, 50%, I think were in line. But on a project like this with 3 phases, we could knock that down a lot by just doing 1 phase at a time. I agree with that. And maybe we should look at the 50%. In places like London where I built before, the 50% was that, and you had to have it there. But I'm quite willing to look at knocking it down some and looking at the 3 phases like Kevin's proposing here. Thanks.
So just for clarification on the 100% piece, it was because it was $350,000. So that would have been 100% at that time, not 50%. That's where I think the confusion was, in all honesty. So again, Mr. Karras has sent us a letter back, and he's suggested $10,000. Everybody's had a chance to read his letter. And Mr. Karras is with us today. I don't know if Mr. Karras wishes to speak to this or not. Mr. Karras, do you?
I don't have any comments. I think you guys are on the right track. I'm still not going to tie up as much as 175,000 capital. I will just walk away from it and come along.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Kevin. Yes, Ken, please.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. Through you to Councillor Westgate. Part of the reason we applied 100% was that was just what I thought applied. As you all know, I'm kind of pitch hitting during our staffing resource challenges. And so every municipality in the county has a different number. That was just an error on my part. That said, just to clarify one of your comments earlier, what is included in the site plan today, or the site plan agreement, which is not signed and not endorsed by the town, so it can be changed, is that accepting the error, so whatever number you apply, the thought process was, given the fact that you had multiple phases, we wanted to collect all of the money up front to hold it across all three phases, so you would not apply another amount of money at phase two or phase three, but that it would be held until the entire project was done, simply because you would have the works done as associated with phase one up front. But then when you go into building phase two or phase three, that building activity would then cause potential damage to, say, the landscaping, because you are going on the site again, you're moving dirt around. There's the potential of impact to the site plan landscaping, which would then require it to be redone as a result of getting the other buildings done. But this was not an intention to say 175,000 and then another 175,000 and then another. It was, we want the deposit upfront. We're not asking for anything in phase two and phase three. But I think it's important for council to understand that if this is going to be multiple phases, regardless of what number you apply, there is the impact potential that the second building or the third building is going to go into that site and disturb the landscaping or works that you are wanting done in phase one of the site plan. And so to then seek a deposit and then return it at the end of phase one, knowing that there would then be another phase, if you're going to do that, then what should really happen is you do phase one, you finish everything for phase one, and if it's acceptable, then the deposit is returned. When phase two happens, there is another deposit to make sure that the works that are part of the project don't get damaged, and if they are damaged, are repaired back to the standard of the site plan. And this is, just so council is very clear, this is consistent with how we operate site plans across the county when we have multiple phases, making sure that the works that are done, whether it's landscaping or servicing, are not damaged by further phases. And that's why you apply a site plan deposit for that. I did want to clarify one comment from Councillor Morris. Keep in mind, the site plan process is delegated to staff because of Bill 109. So there are limits to what you can claw back in terms of the involvement of council through Bill 109's changes, because the province is very clear. They want site plans to be approved by staff. So just keep that in mind.
But Ken, for clarification, we do have the right to set the fee structure, correct?
Through you, Mayor Case, that's absolutely correct.
Thank you. Councillor Westgate.
In this case, is it easy to separate the three phases? Most of the site work, I would imagine, and most jobs will be done in the first phase. So the second phase would be a lot less site work. So we would have to put a lot less down. How much of the site work is in the first phase? And can we separate it easy? How long between phases? That makes a big difference too. We don't want to, if it's a 3-year project, we don't want to tie Kevin's money up for 3 years when it's going to be all done in the first year or first phase.
So through your worship, to your question, my understanding of the project, and Mr. Karras can correct me if I'm incorrect, all of the works associated with the project are tied to phase one, because none of the drawings in the package that we have show any of the works related to landscaping or connection to municipal services as being anything other than associated with phase one. So you are correct. That would all occur at phase one. And so then what I'm suggesting with some level of discretion to staff is we could look at exactly what you're suggesting, which is if all the works are done at phase one, we take a deposit of whatever it is you decide today. Once all of that is done and it's completed through the process that you have, through the site plan, that can be returned. Then you've given us discretion to look at the situation. If you wish to go that route for then phase two, because then it's a matter of, well, how much do you think would be applicable? Because there's no works associated with that. It's all done. It's just the building itself. And so what site plan deposit would be appropriate? That, or you can also take the model that Councillor Morris is suggesting or has been suggested with changing the number to set a standard, but then council would have to make a decision on the site plan deposit. I don't recommend that option because it creates delays in the process, because then we would have to come to you either before we make a decision to approve a site plan in general, because we tried to do the site plan approval and the site plan agreement together, which was the case here. But we haven't signed the site plan agreement to execute it yet.
All right, thank you, Ken. So I got a question. How long has this particular project been going on for now? I mean, it did start obviously the last calendar year. How far does it go back? The change was made in April by council on the fees. Did this project start before that date? Does anybody know? I'm not trying to throw a trick question at anybody, but I guess what I'm trying to determine, did this process with Mr. Karas's development start before that April date?
Yes.
Through your worship, there was no official submission of an application before April 21. So it would not have been, I see where you're going, and it wouldn't be grandfathered in that sense. But that said, council has the ability to make changes to its policy.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Anybody else on council wish to? Yes, Councillor Morris.
I guess, Ken, I gotta make sure I understand this. You're talking 50% of the cost of the project? Can you explain that for me, please, so I understand?
So through your worship, a site plan deposit is, as part of the site plan approval process, there are capital works that are done as part of the project. That can be connecting to the municipal sewer, water and storm. It could be installation of sidewalks. It could be a whole number of different things. And then it also includes any landscaping associated with the project. So in this case, Mr. Karas's application team that he has that's making the application on his behalf provided us with a cost estimate for all of those associated works of connecting to municipal services and the total cost of the landscaping proposed to meet the bylaw standards, which came out to $75,000, if I'm not mistaken. So then what you do is you then, whatever it is that your process says is the deposit, you then multiply that number by whatever percentage you take. So in this case, it should have been 50%, which was my mistake, which would be 175,000.
Okay, thank you for the explanation.
Okay, so maybe obviously what we're here today to do is to provide direction to staff on this matter. We've already talked about the 350 versus the 175, and we've clarified that. So now we're looking at this particular project, and it's up to council to decide if they want to offer some form of a relief from the $175,000, keep it at the $175,000, and I guess if we're not keep it at the 175, suggest something else for the project. Mr. Karas has been very clear in his letter what he's looking for, but again, council has the decision-making authority and decides where we move forward. So I guess I'm asking council for some direction for staff on this matter. Does anybody wish to make a statement, comment? Deputy Mayor.
I guess just a statement. I think maybe if Kevin would have known this dollar value was there prior to even starting the project, he may have not even proceeded with the project, as he spent some money with his site plan stuff already. So I guess I'm trying to understand why he didn't know what that was going to cost up front. He was assuming it was the same. I'm thinking, I didn't ask him this, but I'm assuming he was thinking it was the same as the previous two builds he's done on the site. So to me, that's a concern. I'm prepared to give a number as a percentage, but if anybody else wants to discuss anything, that's fine.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Moore.
Ken, could you give us I don't care about the city of Sarnia, I don't care, but like Brook Alvingston, Plimpton, Wyoming, what are their percent fees? I didn't quite catch that in here.
Through your worship, to be honest, they're all over the map and I don't happen to have what they are. I'd have to go back to look at the report that was done, which was attached. But keep in mind that was back in 2021, so was the table attached? Oh, I just need to, oh, here we go. That's the fees. So, yes, so on page 5 of the attachment, so Point Edward, it was a flat fee of 5,000 at the time. Plimpton, Wyoming is 100%. If it's on municipal land, 25% on private land. Lambton Shores is 100% of the value of the work being done on municipal lands and any facilities being assumed by the municipality. St. Clair is 100% of the cost estimate of all improvements. So I would read that to be any of the works. So this would be the same as how we've applied it, except your number is 50%. Brook Alvinston does not have one and Enniskillen does not have one, at least back in 2021. That may have changed since then. So as you can see, there is no consistency across the county.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Ken. I think in part of the direction we need to give staff at the end of the day, after we deal with Mr. Karras's situation, is have them go back and maybe do some, maybe more homework and see what the updated fees are from some of the other municipalities, such as Councillor Moore suggesting some of them that are more in line to what we are, but not excluding the others as well. I think it's important to get a good understanding of what's going on out there. But getting back to Mr. Karras's situation, does anybody else from council have any comment or statement on this particular item at this time? We are looking for a resolution today for Mr. Karras. That is my hope. It's up to council though to decide where we go. Councilor Moore.
Well, it was $10,000 and now it's 175,000. It seems like a huge increase. Like Brook has nothing. Plimpton's is 25% on private land. I was gonna say 15% to a maximum number of a certain dollar. Like, I don't want to get it so we deter investment. And like if somebody has to go out and borrow or obtain credit for another 175,000 on a project, that's a lot of cash for a small business. So I'd like to see it more around 15%.
Thank you, Councillor Morris. Yes, Ken, please.
Just to your comment, Councillor Morris, understand that it was not a flat fee, that it went from 10,000 to 175,000, and that's what everyone would, that's just how the percentage and the mathematics works in this case.
Yeah.
So, you know, if my cost estimate for my project was 50,000, then my deposit would be 25,000, right? Like it's percentage based on the proportion of the improvements. Just to give you a sense of what 25%, which is Plimpton, Wyoming, would apply, you'd be looking at 93,750.
Anybody else on council? Questions, comment? Deputy Mayor.
I tend to agree with Wayne. I did like his comment about capping it though. I guess if you look at this particular project, 15%, that's 52.5. So, but you cap it at 50, you know, something like that. But then it's there, I guess, if could be looked at if it was a bigger project, but I don't want to mess with that either. You have to either pick a number and cap it or just pick a number and don't cap it. So.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So again, I want to deal with this particular issue on its own. And then I do think it's very important that we send staff back to do the due diligence to try to come up with some other numbers for council to consider. Because what I'm hearing around the table is that everybody seems to agree that the 50% is too high. So again, turning things back to Mr. Karas's situation. And I guess the question I have, and it was already mentioned once before, was any mention of this new fee structure ever given to Mr. Karas, just for our benefit? Was Mr. Karas ever told that it was going to be 50%? Ken?
Through your worship, I don't recall this coming up in any of the discussions, but that said, it wasn't. Our discussions were mainly focused on how is the building or buildings going to sit and where they were in terms of a planning perspective. But that said, the information isn't, to my knowledge, hidden away. The report is still a matter of public record. But I don't recall the question being specifically raised.
All right, fair enough. Thank you. Mr. Karas, you don't remember that ever coming up in your discussions?
Never.
Thank you. Okay, Councillor Westgate.
On this particular case, maybe since the building's already there, he already has developed quite a bit of the lot. Maybe we should be looking at something like 25,000 for this case and then look at our policy. I think that may be fair to everybody. It's a whole lot less than 50% of the 350, but it's still enough to cover and make sure the grass goes down and stuff. He's going to want sewers for sure. He's going to do that. I mean, water, there's a lot of it that's going to happen for sure. But we do have to keep enough, like for the landfill. We had how much we still got money held back for the landfill, more than we're talking here.
All right, thank you, Councillor Westgate. And keep in mind, to be fair to everybody here, this policy was a change in 2021. And so all staff are doing is they are actually stating the new policy. I think that the process that we have, I mean, moving forward, and I've seen a lot of good things since I've come on in any development discussions we've had, the fees should be outlined and stated. It is part of the record, as Ken has said, but I think we should make sure that people understand and know what those rates are, because if somebody all of a sudden told somebody that maybe they were looking at 175,000 or 350,000, they may change their mind and not continue on with the project. But I do think that we, as we've talked about here today, we've talked about sending it back for further investigation on the policy we have now. So this council can take a look at it, determine what we think the fee should be. Moving forward. But again, we've had some good discussion about Mr. Karas's situation. I've heard some numbers. I haven't heard a motion yet from anybody on this particular item. And I guess I'm looking for a potential number. So Mr. Karas can make the decision whether he moves forward or not. Going forward, Councillor Westgate.
I'll make the number I just said before, 25,000 a motion, and we'll see where it goes and see what our planner has to say about that.
Thank you, Councillor Westgate. As part of that motion, could we also state, and Madam Clerk, you can give me some direction on this one. Also, the other part about moving forward, we go back, or would you like a separate motion for staff to go back and do due diligence, Madam Clerk? So we'll do a second motion to take a look at our process and our policy moving forward. So the motion from Councillor Westgate is $25,000. Deputy Mayor?
I'll second that motion.
That is seconded by Deputy Mayor Kallenberg. Further discussion of council on this particular item.
Since Councillor Westgate.
Sorry, Ken?
Did you want me to respond to Councillor Westgate?
You're welcome to. I've got a motion on the floor, but you're welcome.
Oh, no, I just, in your motion, Councillor Westgate asked how I would, how the planning team would feel. Frankly, we're in your hands. So whatever council chooses, the only thing I always caution council to understand is when you set a process, it's important to just be consistent with it. If council's not happy with what it has now, then give us direction to change it. We'll bring forward some options for you and change it. And I'll just say, your worship, we are always learning from each application. So we've already recognized a whole bunch of things out of this particular site plan process that need to be updated in the site planning application form, and we've already initiated that discussion with the Warwick staff.
Thank you, Ken. Counselor Westgate.
I think that motion will follow this motion.
Yes, that's the plan, Counselor. So I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, so everybody's in favor of the motion. $25,000, and I guess Mr. Karras, thank you for coming, and we'll have some correspondence back and forth with you, I'm sure, after you make your decision on moving forward or not, but thank you very much for coming. Appreciate it.
For having me.
Thank you.
Great day.
Yes, go ahead, Ken.
So what we will do is, as I mentioned, the site plan agreement was provided as part of a notification of approval of the site plan decision. So it was approved with conditions. We will endeavor to amend the site plan agreement because it isn't approved. It's still unsigned with the direction that you have provided. And we will assume based on the discussion that that is the 25,000 is for all of the works upfront in stage 1. And then we will come back to you. We will put in the agreement that deposits for phases 2 and 3 will require council approval, and we'll bring it back if that's, unless there's, I'm not getting the direction correctly.
Oh, Counselor Westgate, is that what your intention was? Yes, and the seconder as well is good with that?
Because we don't know how far along phase 2 will be or 3, it might be 3 or 4 years. From now.
Very good.
That's a relatively,
This money,
that is a very quick change to the draft agreement that we can get out in short order.
Very good. Let's move on if we can, council. Let's move on to the ELCC project construction update.
Do we want to do a motion?
Yes, thank you, Madam
Some
Clerk.
Parameters.
That is the second motion that we talked about doing. Counselor or Deputy Mayor Kallenberg. Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion that we look at our fees and have staff see what other municipalities are doing and bring it back to us for a report. And we'll go from there.
We have a seconder to that motion. Counselor Morris. Yes, Ken.
Or I don't mean to keep interrupting. I just wanted to provide some clarification if I could. I don't think what we're looking at is the fees. You're looking at the deposit, unless you wanted us to examine the fees too. Because we can look at that. And I will just say that what a great project for our newest member of the planning team to endeavor to do. And maybe even amend the draft site plan agreement.
So what we'll do is we'll deal with the motion, and it's the deposit. We clarified that. And any further discussion? Counselor Westgate.
we look at this, can we? I think a person or a company that's already in the community, we don't need as much as a new one coming in. Because we know what Kairos are going to do. I don't know whether we can look at that or if it's too much, but we know if you've got a house, you're not gonna ruin the area around that. You know what I mean?
It's a good question. My initial reaction would be that I wouldn't recommend you go that route. I get where you're going, that you're saying, hey, business X, Y, and Z who've been here for a while, we value you. And so we're going to have a different approach. I just don't know if from a legislative perspective, you can go that route. I don't think you need it to be included in the motion. I understand where you're going. I will still endeavor to have the team look into that aspect and get a feel for what could be done. And if we can, we'll try to bring something back, but regardless, we'll address it in the report, if that's okay.
Okay. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Okay, let's move on to B. Thank you, Ken. Actually, maybe Ken, before you go, do you want to introduce, we have a new planner that's joining our team out here. Maybe I'll take this opportunity to have Ken introduce our new planner. Maybe if you'd like to pop up here the front and then we,
Pressure on the first
no
day.
pressure. So anyways, Ken, I'll turn it over to you
Yeah.
to,
What, this is our third new staff member and each time on their first, almost first day that they're being put on stage. So no pressure at all, but maybe actually I will get Johan to introduce himself just to say hello. So all you need to do is press the
Hello, everyone. It's my first day. Glad to be here. Yeah, so I was working in a private firm before this. And I'm finishing my master's at Waterloo as well. Yep, what's going on?
So Johan is the newest member of the planning team. As you are all aware, we had some staff retire and some movement throughout the department. So this completes our task of filling those positions. So we're now into hour number 7 of his first day, and we're happy to have him with us.
Welcome.
yeah, well, thank you very much. Okay, thank you, Ken. And
Thank you.
welcome to Warwick Township. Look forward to working with you. Okay, let's move on to B if we could, and that's the ELCC project construction update. You have a report in front of you. Did anybody have any questions on that report? Thank you. Any questions on the report for the ELCC construction and deficiencies list? Councillor Morse?
Yeah, it wasn't in the report, but when we had our tour of the kitchen a little while ago, there's 2 warming ovens and only 1 plug. Are we planning on putting a plug in so both warming ovens can be used? Ryan?
Go ahead, Ryan.
Yes, thank you, Councilor Morris. I do believe that we now have the ability to plug in both warmers. They're both on the same circuit. They just need to be reversed, so 2 will plug into 1. But I can certainly double check on that because the goal is to have the ability to plug in both warming ovens. But I do believe we are at that point now.
Thank you.
Very good. Anybody else have any questions? Deputy Mayor?
Ryan, was there a sink ever put in the bar area? I think there was supposed to be one in there originally.
There's currently no sink in the bar area. It was brought to our attention and it has come through our Parks and Recreation Committee as well. Something that I'm currently investigating and looking at some options. There's no easy solution to it, but it is something that we're working on and hope to gain some information on best course in installing a sink in the bar area. So I'll keep you council updated on that item.
All right, thank you, Ryan. Councillor Westgate?
Yes, I have a couple things. For the 150th, are we going to have the second coat of paving down and the sod down on around the rest of it?
Ryan?
Yes, that has been scheduled and is the plan, has been confirmed by our contractors, and it will be all site works will actually be completed prior to 150th.
I figured you'd be on top of that, and I'm glad to hear that. The other thing is hot water. Our hot water heater went at home and my wife was up exercising and went in there and there was no hot water in that part. And when in the showers in the dressing rooms in the arena, we had problems a few days with no water, hot water in there. I just wondered what was going on there.
Yes, and I can provide an update on the hot water concerns and issues that we've had. We've replaced 2 mixing valves, which we believe was the reason for lack of hot water in the change rooms at both the YMCA side, gymnasium, as well as the arena. So we're confident that has been fixed.
When was that done? In the last couple of days? Because I think my wife was there. How many? She was there prior or after that. So, and I had not from my wife, but in the woman's shower area, say the drain's higher and the water goes all over. I wasn't in there, but.
Good answer.
I don't know whether there's anything you can do about that. I know that's when they pour.
I will circle back and double check on the water, hot water issues, and can report back on that as well. And to your question about the drains, it's something that I'm unaware of, but happy to take a look and can report back on that as well.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Ryan. Anybody else have any questions on the report that's been? Like Councillor Westgate?
On the deficiency list that you give here, some of that stuff is done or it all needs to be done yet? How are we coming along with the deficiency list?
I believe on the deficiency list that's been provided, if it's marked completed, it's complete. If completed isn't beside each item, then it's still obviously to be completed. I would say that the majority of the deficiencies either are scheduled to be done, and that being the outside site works and landscaping, all of which we have been confirmed by the consultant will be completed in the month of May. And most other items, which there aren't a lot left, certainly not those that are affecting operations, which is a good thing, are in the queue to be completed as well.
Councillor Westgate?
Just one other note here I have that I didn't, the pigeons, what are we gonna do about them? I hear there's nests up there. At the front entrance. I think we'll have to put a net up or something. I don't know what, but we can't have that mess there all the time.
Yeah, it's something that we'll have to continue to look at. We've tried a few options. We tried the spikes, they worked. But we did have some birds come back. I don't believe they're pigeons on the front side. They're yes, thank you. Starlings, but we'll continue to look at that and see if we can't remedy that issue as well.
Okay, thank you, Ryan. Does anybody else have any questions or comments on the report? It looks like we're getting there. It's almost complete, which is a good thing. It's been going on for a while. Councillor Morris?
It's not on the report, but I do have a bit of a health and safety concern, Ryan. When we did the cleanup the other day, can you tell the guys to be very careful not to chop up beer cans with the mowers? It just made shredded metal all over, and if we had a young person walked over it, they would have cut their foot open. So maybe just give them a heads up to have a look before they cut the grass, please.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Morris.
Okay. Does anybody else have any comment on the report that's been presented to us today? Like I say, it looks like we're getting to the finish line. Madam Clerk?
Thanks, Mayor Case. I did just want to highlight, I know council is aware of this, but not related to the construction, but related to the overall build. The ELCC fundraising committee has officially surpassed their donation goal of $2 million to achieve. I actually just received a new donation today. Amazing. So just short of $2.1 million. So wanted to highlight that today for the public record as well. Thank you.
Well, that definitely is a good news story, and the folks that worked so hard to raise all those dollars, we really do appreciate what they've done. Councillor Westgate?
On that, did Waste Management ever make a donation?
We did not receive a donation from Waste Management for the ELCC.
Okay, well, there is a recommendation to receive and file the report. Who would like to do the honors? Councillor Morris, Deputy Mayor Kallenberg, all in favor? That is carried. Thank you. And did anybody have any new business they wanted to bring forward today? I just have one thing. I want to congratulate Ryan and his team for putting together the Earth Day project. There was lots of young people there. Councillor Morris was out there collecting garbage, and he was quite wet when I saw him up there, but it was great to see so many young people out in our community taking part in that. So congratulations on putting that together. It was very well done. So congratulations on that. I just also wanted to mention that I had the honor to be at the East Lambton Minor Hockey Banquet the other night to bring greetings, and wow, talk about the new community hall being full again. It's great to see that place full and lots of kids and parents that were out and a really good year for East Lambton Minor Hockey. So I wanted to once again congratulate them as an organization on such a great year this year. So that's all I had. Did anybody else have anything for new business whatsoever? Not saying anything? Okay, so I guess we'll go to bylaws if we can then, please. There's no closed session.
So the resolution isn't showing on the agenda. Sorry about that, but it would read that
36 of 20.
bylaw 36 of 2023 be read a first, second, third, and time and finally passed.
Would like to do the honors. Deputy Mayor Cowenberg and Councillor Westgate, all in favor? That's carried. And now I need a motion to adjourn. Councillor Morris, you get to do the honors on this one, and Councillor Westgate, all in favor? That is carried. Well, thank you very much. This concludes our meeting. Thank you to everybody that viewed today's meeting, and we look forward to the next one. Thank you very much.